worried that you might be the cool kid, you wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends? Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream, always so generic, more normal than your friends? Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard, 'cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. So Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for a new episode of the It's Canon podcast, the show where you like to chat about comics, the show where you like to chat about video games, TV shows, movies, anything and everything. And the best part of it all is that it is all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and this week I am joined by Phil.
Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to our little man cave in YouTube. Yes. And maybe other places too.
We don't even know sometimes. All I know is that we are live at the very least, right now, we are live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thank you to anyone who is watching, and thank you to those watching the post stream after the fact. What a week it's been. It's a very busy week in sports, to say the least. We got March Madness, the Final Four coming up this weekend. Four teams who no one would have ever thought would be in it are in it. Both Final Four games are happening on Saturday, with the finals on Monday. We have WrestleMania week. For those people listening on SNME Radio, I know this is a super busy week for you because you do have WrestleMania this week, and all the shows, all the cards. And a huge good luck to anyone who is going live in person. It's always an experience just being able to watch so much in 1 week. But with it being in LA, like, the distances are just so much. But whether you're watching Ring of Honor on Friday, Impact Wrestling on Thursday, WWE on Saturday, NXT on Saturday, and WrestleMania both on Saturday and Sunday. We hope you have fun. So much going on, so much so that some would say that our little slice of the pie, Phil, is a little, it's lacking a little bit. But without further ado, here we are chatting all things, everything on the It's Canon podcast. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to center my camera, but it looks like I'm on the Titanic right now. I don't know what's going on. I just live here. I swear to you, the floors are not that slanted. For those of you who are watching the video feed or the recap, yeah, I'm doing well. I've been playing around with tech. I know you've been running around doing all this wrestling stuff with SNME, and fantastic on you. But for me, it was really, I guess the biggest thing for me was that our audience knows I'm a little bit of a Stadia guy, and I was a little bit crushed.
A little bit. Tyler and I kept telling you, jump the ship. It is coming down. You guys already hit the iceberg, but you stayed on it. You stayed on it.
I stayed on it.
Rose
I
didn't make room for you on that raft either.
No, I really thought that it struck me as that should be the way of the future for gaming. And I'm happy to say that last week that Amazon came out of left field on Thursday, I believe, and just said, you know what? Today, going forward, Luna is live in Canada, the UK, Germany, in those marketplaces, and they finally went beyond the States. So it was interesting because I just waited a few days to gather some info on how this thing works, being somewhat familiar with cloud gaming. I have a Fire Stick. I have Amazon devices in my home. I have an Alexa-enabled TV. But what's happened now is that, it's basically you get a lot of access to certain games with just your Prime.
Yeah.
With just your Prime membership. And then, like, look, this Ubisoft Plus thing, it's $22.99 a month in Canada. That's a lot. I would imagine if you're a huge gamer for Ubisoft, it looks like it holds value, but man, it's a commitment. I subscribed to the Luna Plus. I ordered myself a controller here.
Hold on.
It was about, yeah,
Oh, there
it
you
was
go.
about $90.
Beautiful looking controller.
It's your standard Xbox controller for all intents and purposes. And yeah, I picked up I activated my free trial, 7-day free trial on Amazon Plus or Luna Plus, which is a monthly subscription, the same as Stadia was at $12.99 a month, and you get access to all of these games.
Hold on.
I got
right away. Earthworm Jim and Earthworm Jim 2 make this worth it.
Yeah. There's a lot of retro stuff in here. Space Ace. Like, dude, you'd lose your mind. Lots of Mega Man, lots of racing games and whatnot. I went for the purposes of this show. I did a test of Dirt 5, which I know what that ran like on Stadia. I have it on PS5. That was my first game. And I have it on Xbox because I have Game Pass.
Yeah.
So I've got a pretty good base sample of playing that game. And I got to say, it was great. It was great. I fired it up on the TV here. I got into the car, turned on the surround sound, and away I was. Like, cloud gaming's awesome. Like, from what I can tell, they're just putting on the back end, they're streaming a Ryzen rig that's fully decked over the internet to you, because everything's coming up, the splashes and everything. It looks like there's a little bit of loading time, but it looks like they're on fast PCs with SSDs. And it's just kind of similar to the NVIDIA approach of how they're doing streaming by just, having the farms and plugging away. So you're getting high fidelity graphics, 1080p. Stadia had them beat with 4K under their subscription plan, as long as the game supported it. But it seems to be the frame rate, everything like that. Like, I didn't have to tweak anything on my network. The controller hooks into my network, same as the Stadia did. So it's operating over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And this is all pretty good, guys. Like, I got to say, if cloud gaming is something that it's really good for casual gaming, because you can just jump into whatever. There's no loading, there's no patching, there's nothing. It's just play the game, and when you're done, pop out of it.
Yeah.
So the only problem is in Canada is that if you don't have an external device like a Fire Stick or Cube, then what you got to do is petition your television maker to make the app available in Canada, because it previously got barred because it wasn't available in our market. So
yeah,
interesting stuff though, I gotta say. Like, whew, I did miss cloud gaming. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it.
Look,
so I'm looking forward to a new adventure with this.
I have to ask you, have you tried Resident Evil 2? Have you tried Resident Evil 3 or Saints Row?
Maybe some of the Resident Evils. But I haven't really gone too deep into Resident Evil or Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Devil May Cry reboot that was more action. I haven't gone down that horror genre really much, if at all.
Yep.
So, are you recommending I take a try on these services if they have them there?
I am more interested in how they run, right? Especially over Wi-Fi. The Resident Evil 2 and 3 are the remakes. Saints Row is a little on the newer side. So I'm more curious just how they run, right? And kind of compare that to your experience with Stadia. Look, I'm pro cloud gaming. I think cloud gaming is the future, and I don't like it, but in a sense, but I understand that that's where we're going, right? Especially with Game Pass and the new PS Plus, it's where we're going. That is the future in some shape, way, or form. So we have to get used to it, right? Especially as one of the biggest things that Tyler and I used to always shit on was the fact that people's internet, right? And yeah, that is still a problem. But unfortunately, with things like Starlink and I say unfortunately just because of the who owns that, but and a lot of people having fiber or better, right? Giga internet, it's becoming less of an issue.
Yeah, it is. And really, you know what? Like, I'm not on one of those mega data plans. Like, I'm 50 megs a second, which is perfectly fine for me, but a more balanced split with a fantastic upload of 25 megs.
Yeah.
So things tend to work well in my environment as long as they work within that framework. So as long as I'm not trying to overdo it. The problem that I have is that with regular game consoles, okay, the ultimate experience is a game console. But I do find that the game consoles, Xbox gets a little bit more of my attention just because Game Pass is that user friendly for me. The pass system on PlayStation, I subscribe to that too. Like, I am a little bit of a game, a multiple a gamer type thing, multiple platform. I don't have a single commitment in this. I try it all. And I like Sony's approach, but it doesn't differ much other than it seems to be more difficult to get at, if that makes sense, because it's got its own little area and you have to consciously go in there and remind yourself to constantly check about what games are in there, get them downloaded. That takes time on 50 megs a second, right? Because now I'm looking at a download of a few hours. I just can't on the spot commit to, it'd be fun to play this. And then, there's an update that I need. There's a this that I need. I gotta, get this version fixed up. That type of thing. Whereas cloud gaming is just like, sit on your couch, sit on your monitor, wherever you have the thing. Get on there, play your game, and get the heck out when you get tired or, it's time to go make dinner or whatever you got to do. But you got a good 15 minutes of gaming in. And you're just like, I wouldn't have had access to that otherwise. You wouldn't believe how much I missed that.
And to be honest,
it's Phil, weird. Like,
it's weird. That's the type of gamer that I'm turning into more and more. Like, I will put in 100 hours in a game that I absolutely love, like a Death Stranding or something like that, right? In Final Fantasy, I'll put in this 50 hours or whatever you have to do. But, for the most part, I want to be able to pick up a game, play it for a little bit, put it back down. That's all she wrote, right? And really, like you said, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. That's why I love sports games, picking up a sports games, kicking someone's ass, some noob's ass, and calling it a day, going back to what I do, right? I work from home. I've been working from home since 2015, right? So I'm now accustomed to picking up a video game console between meetings so that I can just reset my brain and whatever, right? Like that's how I work. That's how I do stuff. So, but I can't get in too deep into a game when I'm in the middle of my workday, right? I need a game that I can just pick up, play for a little bit, and call it a day, right? That's why right now with Last of Us, the remake, it works perfect. But even then, I don't want to commit too much time into video games, right? And that experience, I still consider myself a gamer, still love gaming, and I, at night, will spend however many hours playing Gotham Knights or whatever, right? But during the day, when I'm busy, when I'm, just feeling stressed, feeling a little low or whatever, that's a time that I really want to be able to just pick up a game, play 15 minutes or something like that. That's why, when I saw Earthworm Jim, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Just laugh a little bit and call it a day, right? So that's what I like about it. So what I can see really happening, and we'll see where PS Plus and Microsoft Game Pass take things. And that's really, what games they offer on those. I want to see more old school games like that, especially in Game Pass. I want to see Battletoads or something like that. Now that they own that series, right? Like I want to see stuff like that on online and through cloud gaming.
Yep.
Because the thing is, cloud gaming to a certain extent is the future. It's going to change and going to evolve over the next 5 years, but I think that in 10 years there's going to be a real market for cloud gaming. Is Luna going to survive, or is Luna going to go the way of Stadia? I don't know. But let's be realistic. Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, Microsoft, they obviously have plans, right? They have something up their sleeve because they don't want a Stadia or a Luna or whomever to be the next big player, right? Like, let's be honest. When we were growing up and you heard that Sony was coming out with a gaming system, you scoffed at it a little bit. It's like, what the fuck does Sony know about video games and gaming, right? Well, little did we know, right? So I think that the big three, you know, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo kind of have that in the back of their mind.
Well, one of the things that came out during this whole FTC filing with Xbox trying to acquire Blizzard and whatnot and Activision is that, you know, that was one of the arguments that one of the either the EU or the FTC used against Microsoft, and specifically identified that they had no incentive to play well with other cloud gaming services. So what Microsoft did was sign a 10-year deal with NVIDIA on their cloud gaming service. And, you know, they have their competing thing. But I noticed with Amazon Luna, when I was doing my research, it was announced a couple of weeks ago that Fortnite's going to be coming to it.
I saw that.
Which, we can all go, oh, Fortnite. But the thing is, Fortnite here's another thing that I think we should quickly touch on. And that is, if you watch the GDC convention on the weekend, it's like some of the stuff that came out with Unreal Engine 5.2 is absolutely insane. And the development tools that they're coming to market with, where they're going to be able to empower people who create levels and whatnot to take something that would take multiple hours to do and do it in minutes, like real-time foliage rendering with light, all of this stuff. But one of the things that they talked about and was announced last week at this conference was that Fortnite are now opening up a new branch of revenue for their players, in that they can start making their own video games using the Fortnite Unreal Engine. And the more they keep people in their video games, which don't have to be like Fortnite, they can be whatever they want to be. They create the content that people come and play it. It's sounding a lot like Roblox.
Yeah.
They have people come and play it. And then based on the how you retain players, popularity, all this stuff, Fortnite reserve 40% of the revenue to be allocated back to the creators. So this all of a sudden makes Fortnite into this multi-game platform, which I don't know about you, but that sounds really exciting to me. And seeing they have 3 different demonstration games that they created, these look like fun games. They look interesting. They have really neat graphical things, and I can see people's creativity coming out in this and making games like High as Life or whatever it is, that one that's the Rick and Morty people and things like that. Like, I just see a lot of possibility coming to people who are willing to create and use these tools that are getting more and more accessible.
Yeah.
And that means amazing things for this industry. And then when you start thinking about the cloud gaming and everything, you don't need hardware to run this stuff.
Yeah.
You just need an internet connection and a TV with a stick and a ridiculously expensive Canadian controller at $90. But it's accessible now. It's not $600 plus tax. It's not $600 plus a VR helmet plus all this. You know what I mean? Like, we are getting into a really interesting period of gaming. And it's kind of, in my mind, like juxtaposed with, it seems like everything's just getting worse and worse with games as it stands right now. That's the other thing. I find that games aren't holding me in the way that they used to, Boris. I find that I really have to have my engagement level amped way up, for Jedi, the new Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor or whatever it's going to be called. I have to really stoke the fire in order to sit there and go, yeah, man, some of those maps were really a piece of shit. And I really struggled with getting around that map. Like, I don't know how many times I've come to you and I go, I don't know, I'm stuck on that opening planet. I don't know where the heck I'm supposed to go. And you're like, just go to the other side of the map and you're going to find out. And you were right. You knew exactly where I was. But yeah, it's just game designs are getting more and more complicated and mechanics and everything. And then here we have people making stuff. And I'm like, let's see where this goes. Is it the return of the 5-minute massive entertaining thing? Is it like Angry Birds 3.0? I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is old man yells at cloud. Like, that's literally my first thought here. But you have a point. You have a point to a certain extent, right? That I think that we are being let down by video game developers. You can check out my review of WWE 2K23 on Talk Time Live with Dag Xavier. And this, we had talked about this, is that we as the consumers are getting screwed over, but we as consumers aren't doing the right things. We're not speaking up. We're not talking with our money because we're still idiots. We're still buying those games, no matter how shitty they are and how glitchy they are, right? Like, anyone who's ever listened to the show or has listened to this show for a while knows about our rants when it comes to CD Projekt Red, and in particular Cyberpunk 2077, right? Like, that game was an absolute shit show, and you would think that the industry learns by now because of that, but no. You know what the industry's done, Dave? And I accept this to a certain extent. I'm okay with games being delayed. For example, the whole always online, the live service that is Kill the Justice League, right? They talked about that. They released that information. They got tons of feedback, none of it good. So what happened? They delayed the entire game to rework things out. That's okay. But you know what the problem is, Phil? They're not going to use that time to fix glitches, to fix bugs, right? If a game is delayed, I want a near perfect release. And we're not getting that. So why are we constantly seeing delays? I just don't get it. I don't get it. But we're idiots. We're dumb because you and I will still spend money.
Look at the fact, like, you bring up Cyberpunk 2077. That was the latest in a series of letdowns. Like, that's just the last one that we can really pick on. But look at almost anything Bethesda. Like, half the Fallout games came out that weren't even working glitch-wise. Skyrim and things like that. Like, these massive multiplayer games and whatnot. You know that this new space game that they're coming out with on Xbox, it's already been delayed 3 times, is going to be an absolute crap fest for the first month or two.
Yep.
Like, I literally, the other night playing Forza Horizon 5, was sitting there, and then I realized that the people that my car was looking at were a foot off the ground and there was nothing between them and the ground. Yep. Like, they're floating there. Like, this is meme-worthy stuff, and the game's 1.5 years old. So I hear you, and we keep on slamming our money down and complaining about the user experience and how we feel exploited and everything. And then we turn around and go, give me more, like, make that same game again, only put more monetization in it. Please let me deal with NFTs, right? Like, that's why I like this Fortnite news, because it's finally, you know what I mean? Like, it might not be my type of game, but finally a developer is putting their money where their mouth is in Epic, because they know they have a monetization method that works. It's just called buying skins. But they know for a fact that they can make substantial betterments for developers.
Improvements.
And that's what I like about it. Instead of sitting there going, I'm Square Enix. How can I further exploit my fan base? Oh, Counter-Strike 2. Here's the bone we're going to throw you guys. Yeah, all the NFTs that you bought for the last 10 years. Oh, you can have them in the new fancy graphic pack. Like, whoa. I'm being old man Phil. I know,
right? But our point is, right? Like at some point we need to talk with our money, right? As consumers, right? And that's what it comes down to. And I think your example of these mini games is a great example because look at the popularity of Roblox. Look at like any parent that I know, anyone who's a parent around my age who has children playing Roblox, the amount of money that they put down into Roblox is absolutely insane and ludicrous.
Yep. And I'll tell you, I played another game on the weekend, Boris. I did the open beta test for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta say, did not hit any queues, thank goodness. Played at some weird times to avoid them.
Of course.
Kind of made the mistake of firing it up late at night on a Saturday night. Gotta say, they still do their cinematics really, really well.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Blizzard game. And I'm not one, I don't have a penchant for horror.
Yep.
I don't have a strong stomach when it comes to certain stuff. That's just not me. Sorry. And the opening sequence of Diablo 4 was unsettling, to say the least, especially at 1 a.m. Wow.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it really feels like Diablo 2 a lot. It's very dark. It's very moody. It's got the core gameplay mechanic down. I'm kind of looking forward to returning to that world. Like I powered through Diablo 3. It was a bit different, but I didn't have this issue with the online economy and everything like that. I just went to it and played my game and got out of it and went, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So this one looks like it's going to do the same thing. The other one piece of news that I saw last week that just made me laugh was 2K Gaming announced that they are making an open world Lego racing game. Hey, it's like Mario Kart meets Lego. And then, where it all goes bad is 2K. Because they have a real world economy that wants to trade real money and have players be able to take out real money from this economy. So they, take the one thing that should be sacred for kids and then try to get into their parents' pockets. This company, man, I'm telling you, they are off the leash with this cash grabbing stuff. I can only imagine what they're doing in WWE, but
right? I was gonna say just to strap on because what they've done with WWE is insane. But it's a fun game overall. But I don't know. Open world racing game. That's interesting. That's very interesting. By 2K.
That's
by
what
2K.
Forza, by 2K. That's what Forza Horizon 5 is. It's an open world racing game.
Okay, but
so it's the only open world thing that I play, to be honest, like and enjoy. Then I'm going back to the trough for. So all of a sudden I'm having to walk back a little bit old man Phil with the open world stuff. But yeah, it's a thing. I noticed that and was like, I cringing, man. I'm just glad that they didn't do it again in Forza with Lego. So
Lego,
we leave it
but
at
you know
Hot
what? These
Wheels.
Lego games are super popular, regardless, right? They're always harder than I think they're gonna be.
Yep, I would agree. The Star Wars one kicks my butt. Not gonna lie, the
DC ones. I think it was Lego Batman 3 that took me forever to play. I used to play them with Mike all the time, and we would just whatever tag team them and do them, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, the Batman Lego 3 was a very difficult one. So we're talking about games coming. We just talked about the Lego Racing open world game, whatever that's going to be, by 2K. Cannot wait for that one and the rants on that one. But last week, I feel like ever since we came back and I told you to read these books, every week there's more news coming from the world of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because it was announced last week that The Last Ronin is becoming a video game that is quote unquote inspired by God of War.
Yeah, I heard that too. And man, I hope it doesn't suck. when you put those words, God of War, onto a game in this modern age, it's like saying it's a lot like The Last of Us. If you put that up there, oh, you better have the cojones. And then number two, if you're telling me that got announced, we'll probably see it in the year 2030 with game development right now.
That's the thing. The fact that we didn't even get an announcement on a studio. We just said, by the way, this is going to become a game. So hopefully it is further along.
Hopefully it's not Ubisoft. It'll never happen. It'll be, well, right after we get Good and Evil 2 out. It's only been 18 years, people. Once we get that done, then we're going to do this TMNT thing.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say at that point, right? It's like, what is going on in the video game industry right now is so weird, and not a good weird. It's a very scary weird, right? Like, I just feel that it's teetering. It's teetering. I'm not gonna say it's on a brink of destruction, but you're seeing a lot of bad things happening. Yeah. Having said that, they're making more and more money year over year.
The thing that's killing me is that you have all these fandoms that are so excited about a game like Atomic Heart, and then there's a reason to ruin it. And then everybody just wants to ruin everything. And it happened with Bayonetta. And it happens with almost every single game. There's like a whole segment of people who just want to ruin stuff. You know, we saw it with, unfortunately, I know we don't talk about it much, but Hogwarts and everything. And I don't know. I personally, it's just overwhelming, because it used to be if the game was good, you wanted to go get it. And now it just feels like I don't know, like I feel terrible for people who stream video games. That's all I can say about that, because it just, Twitter just looks like a crap show on the abuse front. And there's no way of making the perfect game anymore. There's no way of making something that's universally liked. And there's so many issues with the video game industry that they need to get it sorted out. They need to get overtime sorted out, and humane treatment in the workplace, and all this kind of stuff. And yes, we do see Alex. So
yeah, did you see, the weekly shout out? Did you see talking about treatment in the workplace, the whole GDC stuff, right? Like, apparently that's a shit show of a conference for the women, right? Like, people are saying it's essentially just a conference where people become predators. Okay, so last year, a Women in Gaming International event sponsored by Activision Blizzard was described as a men's preying ground by one attendee. It's just like this. Okay, so like
they really can't wash that stink off.
Sorry?
They really can't get away from that stink. Activision, like,
they can't, and we shouldn't give them a buy. We shouldn't
let them.
Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly. But going back to what you're saying, like, this is what I mean. There's just so much going on right now in the video game industry that's outside of the game itself, right? Like, working conditions, predatory nature, they're just equal pay in general, labor issues, etc., etc., etc. And then tag on the fact that games keep being delayed for one reason or another. I know that these two issues come somewhat hand in hand, but honestly, like, it's to me, it is crazy. And I truly do think that the video game industry right now is in a very weird place, and I hope that it can get into a good place. Because, like, for example, Ubisoft pulled out of E3 because they have their own live event. So going back to what we've been saying, right? Like, is E3 even going to still be a thing, right? Is E3 going to be the hotbed for, like, do independent gamers and independent gaming companies even have the funds to go to an E3, right? E3 is going to need to change its whole thing because they don't have the big players anymore. And when I mean big players, I mean Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. They've, right now at this point, lost their video game publishers. Ubisoft is out because they would rather run their own stuff, going back to what Phil, Tyler, and myself always talk about. They want to be able to control the message. They want to be able to hype what is important. They want the right stuff at the right time. They want to be able to control the message, essentially, right? So but again, in my opinion, this is just another chalk on the there's something rotten in Denmark, right? No offense to anyone who lives in Denmark. I love Denmark. Great country.
But as the saying goes, right? To me, I always, my nose wrinkles when you bring up Ubisoft because I've never seen a company take such a tank as they did. They rolled a one. Like, I've just unreal. Well, yeah, Sega. But this is they're miscalculating everything. Oh, we're gonna make the Division free to play. Ugh. We're gonna double down on NFTs. Ugh. We're gonna commit to making games that aren't even in our developers' hands anymore, and they've left. Ugh. We're going to, they turned around and they're saying that they're going forward with this pirate game, which is stuck in hell because they got funded by a government, right? Like a Asian government for its development, and they're getting stuck with that contract because they took the money and they squandered it. And then never mind the fact that they have their own sexual assault and behavioral issues on all kinds of management levels in there. Like, it just, to me, that company is floundering on every level. And then they do something like this. Let's pull out of E3 just because they can't survive the spotlight. So naturally, they have to shrink the stage. And that's what you do when you skip E3. Right? And for Sony, they want to mitigate their stuff because they've got this complicated FTC filing that's going on, and they're trying to interfere with Microsoft. Microsoft are trying to limit damage control because, as it came out last week, Redfall was originally supposed to be a PS5 game, and Microsoft totally stopped that. Sounds like Call of Duty, doesn't it? When Microsoft is like, no, we'll just keep on sharing it. It just makes sense that that we want to sell the game on multiple platforms because we like money. And then it turns out, no, guess what? They're playing these games and they're playing them with the fan bases. And they are just after commitment, money, and loyalty to their environment. That's it. It is really just an arms race.
It really is.
So Ubisoft went from somebody who would be an attractive get or an important customer to have in your portfolio for either exclusive content or advanced content onto your platform. And now it just feels like, no, Sony are just going to turn back and say, oh, we've got a developer that makes Horizon Forbidden West. Go make a new version. Go make a new game. Go do this. We got to sell VR units. Make a new game for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's increasingly what Microsoft and Sony are doing by buying up all these companies too, is they're de-empowering the transitional houses that would normally be appealing to, game platforms to get stuff done.
Yeah. And then you have Ubisoft see this thing about how they are using that Ghostwriter AI tool for writing NPC scripts and stuff. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get my water. Awful. I'm gonna sit back, old man Phil. Have at her.
Oh, it's not that bad. Like, what can you do at this point? It just feels like that's the new trend, right? Is just, hey, let's all get AI involved. Like, it just seems like that's the hot buzzword right now, is to do that. Now, I do feel bad for any creatives in that industry who are under threat. Or I've seen Alana Pierce make a couple posts about the fact that I would rather be writing first draft scripts for game content versus reading and comping like AI garbage. But they're saying that it's under heavy supervision and it's only to expedite the repetitiveness of NPC character things. So it's all, I took an arrow in the knee type stuff, right? That we all remember from Skyrim.
And it's not just Ubisoft who's using AI tools right now. Roblox also announced AI tools like a material generator and a code assist feature. This was all announced at that pesky conference, Game Developers Conference, GDC, and it's meant to make things easier for Roblox developers to create games. Squanch Games also used Midjourney for high on life set decorations. So, AI, we're
seeing it Forspoken. It's rumored that Forspoken used it as well, right? Which is why the dialogue was absolutely horrible in it. I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying, like,
I'm telling you, one episode, and we're gonna do this. This is gonna be the ultimate gimmick. But listen to this. One episode of the It's Canon podcast is going to be 100% AI generated.
Oh boy, it's probably going to be 90% right. Old man Phil.
Oh my God, that'll be
insert rant here.
Yeah, Tyler's not with us, but here's AI Tyler.
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, here's AI Tyler. Oh, my levels just went crazy.
Yeah, your levels just destroyed everyone. Actually, no, they didn't destroy you. You just went really, really low. Yeah, that's why I love live shows. You can catch us live each and every single week, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We're going to be live. Right now, we're doing 9 p.m. We're just testing the things out. But once Tyler comes back, Tyler feel better, we're going to find a time that works for him. He is an hour ahead of both Phil and I. Phil and I are in the Eastern time zone. So we're going to try to find a time that works, like 7, 8 p.m., something like that. Post dinner, pre-bed, listen to the It's Canon podcast, listen to Old Man Phil, Young Kid Tyler, and whatever the hell I am.
Yeah, it's we do appreciate everybody's taking the time to loop in. We don't really have a sponsor for this week's episode, so unlike last week.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a perfect segue, and I was kind of hoping that the episode would go this way. GameStop has turned a profit for the first time in 2 years after major layoffs in 2022.
Yeah, I had a chuckle at that news, but this week, like, what the hell world are we living in?
GameStop saw revenue.
And you know how they did it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So GameStop saw revenue of $2.226 billion during the fourth quarter. It was down slightly from $2.254 billion for the full year. The picture really wasn't as rosy. GameStop posted a revenue of $5.927 billion for the full year, down from $6.011 billion during the previous fiscal year. GameStop posted a loss of $313.1 million. That's an improvement from the $381.3 million loss during the previous year. What ended up really helping GameStop and what pulled them ahead is the fact that they cut costs. And what's the first cost that a lot of people like cutting? Workforce.
Yep. Unfortunately, workforce. And the other strategy that's been working for them is because everybody buys their games digitally now, it seems. They have switched the majority of their product to be higher markup tchotchke items, i.e. toys.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see them doubling down on more toys and making more cuts.
Doubling down on Funko Pops and Legos.
Yeah, and those Black Series Star Wars figures. Woof. And then
Oh,
apparently they're closing down their European branches, that type of thing. They're cutting some markets. I'm
yeah.
just waiting for the day that they cut like Canada, to be honest. But such is life. They are walking a tough road. And yeah, oof, tough one.
Yep.
But good on them for getting the profit. And I feel bad for anybody who lost their job in the way of that though, because
Yeah.
that's never fun.
I hate companies that like pull a profit based off of people losing their job, right? It really sucks.
Yeah.
It's something that that hurts me. Danny's leave my Funko Pops alone. Hey, I collect them. Look at back behind Phil, but they are a very volatile market right now, right? So that's why we always kind of poke fun at Funko Pops, because it's the secondary market, not the first market. Funko, though, very weird, like we were talking about last week, where they need to just become smarter in how they do stuff. But we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with GameStop. Phil, speaking of Pops and Black Series Star Wars and lightsabers, yesterday I did end up going to the Awesome Toy Show. You should have come. You would have had a blast. You would have loved it. You would have skirplatted all over the place. Like clean up in aisle 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Oh, yeah, I got too many Black Series lightsabers, my friend.
Dude.
And those things ain't getting cheap. Like this stuff, I kid you not. I go into Toys R Us up here once in a while and take a look in the aisle. I still laugh my butt off looking at the fact that a little Ahsoka figure, like a three and a quarter inch or whatever, the little action figures, they want $56 Canadian for it new in Toys R Us. And I'm like, it's $15. Like, where are you getting this price point, Hasbro? And apparently that's one of the big complaints by collectors right now, is that Hasbro has, upped their quality, but jacked the price and lowered the production. So
here's the thing, Phil. Everything is becoming a collector's item at this point. If it's geared towards someone our age, and by our age, I'm just going to say 25 and above, I feel like any toy is just becoming a quote-unquote collector's item, because they know that we are idiots and we will pay whatever we have to pay to get that, right? And it's they're making the profit that the secondary, tertiary market used to make, and they're making it right off the bat from the distributor to the store to us. It's crazy, but we're idiots. Almost the same rant that we use for the video game, copy, control, V, right? Like it's just, we're idiots sometimes as a consumer.
It's hilarious. Yeah, and we're our own worst enemies. But it really is. The difference for me is I don't collect them all. I collect one or once in a while, or I've switched my fandoms and done my Star Wars is now Lego Star Wars.
Yeah,
that type of thing. That being said, I will say I got my package in from Denmark today with all my clone troopers that were missing from that battle pack. So good on you, Lego. Congratulations. 2 pages of invoice of just all the parts that they had to include. So I now know what a clone head part number is.
Jesus Christ, my friend. All right, so that's video games, that's toys. Let's talk some movies. Apple is making a huge push right now because they want to bring a lot of their movies. So something that we've talked about on this show in the past, we're really starting to see this. And let's repeat this conversation a little bit for anyone who hasn't listened to us before. And that's, Netflix is kind of like if you write a script and you know how to talk, it's going to get greenlit. And this is no fault to anyone. Congrats to everyone who has gotten anything greenlit at Netflix, right? but they greenlight a lot of stuff. They greenlight, basically, you show a script, and they'll try to get, well, they used to get Bruce Willis or someone like that to star in it, because I feel like every other movie was starred by the same 3 or 4 people. Anthony Mackie, Bruce Willis, one of those two were going to star in your Netflix original. But Apple seems to be very much on quality, right? So Apple is really taking this to the next level, because they are making a $1 billion push to bring their movies to theaters. All right, here's the first one that a lot of people think is going to be one that they're going to push to theaters, because they're trying to work with movie studios and movie production companies and distributors. There's this movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by none other than Martin Scorsese.
Oh boy.
Hold on. Let's unpack this a little bit, Phil. Pot, kettle, black. The man who preaches for film and cinema. The man who says that comic books are ruining film and cinema has a streaming only movie coming out.
Of course. Like, how more on point can you be than that?
So,
like,
okay,
I'm so
get
disappointed in mankind.
Get
right now.
this. Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese. Argyle.
If it's a superhero movie, I'm out.
Can you imagine? Argyle, directed by Matthew Vaughn and starring Henry Cavill and Bryce Dallas Howard. And then there's Ridley Scott's Napoleon. All of these were Apple Plus exclusives, and these are the movies that they're trying to get to theaters. So I see this as a more than likely thing coming. Tetris actually looks amazing. I hate to admit it, but I'm really looking forward to that Tetris movie. And that's another Apple Plus, but that's an Apple TV Plus exclusive. I think this is going to be a success for Apple, right? Because that thing that makes them different, that differentiator between Apple and Netflix being quality, name, brand name almost. You have movies by Martin Scorsese. You have Matthew Vaughn. You got Henry Cavill and Bryce Dallas Howard. You have Ridley Scott, right? Like, these are names that can sell a movie, right?
Yeah, and you also have just like shows like Shrinking with Harrison Ford in them, and things like that. Like randomly. they've got a lot of, and they've got a lot of stuff going on with Tom Hanks in terms of Greyhound and whatnot. Like I've long held that my Apple TV subscription has been one of the better ones for my money because of Ted Lasso, because of there's usually quality shows. There's a few Tom Hanks shows. There's one that's in the future where he's got a robot companion that was absolutely heart-wrenching. There was the space one too. The one with the alternate universe for space with what if the Russians got to the moon first and all that. Like, I forget the name of it, but the writing's fantastic. There's just so much great content on Apple TV that I'm just like, for my money, it's one of the ones that comes in at a lower tier compared to Netflix. And I dump Netflix before I dump Apple TV, especially now that my season's pass is on it. But that we'll beside the point.
For the soccer show.
Yeah. But it seems to be getting better, and they seem to listen to feedback, and they seem to be going out and investing in the right types of people to make new daring shows. Schmigadoon is another one that had a great cast and was just wacky, off the wall, worked, musical, weird, but man, like there's a lot of just stuff on there that just works. Whereas I can go through Netflix and it feels like a wasteland of trash.
A Netflix, yes, it's really starting to sound like my love life. Having a Netflix subscription, it kind of makes you feel like you're a horror fan, where you watch 100 horror movies and you maybe find one or two that you like.
Yeah. Or if you're my dad, he just sits there, fires up Netflix, and watches the same Western over and over again, pretends it's a different day.
Pretends or doesn't know? Phil, is this a conversation we need to have
I
offline?
don't know. Turning 85. He's going to go for his driving test. Whoa! Look at world.
Oh my God. Look, I don't want to talk too much about this, but I was asked to talk about it by 3 people actually. And that's, you know exactly where we're going with this. And I don't want to talk about this because news just came out. We don't know what's going on, but we'll see what's going on over the next few weeks. But that's MCU and Creed 3 star Jonathan Majors being arrested for alleged assault. His rep says he's innocent. We'll see what happens, but you know, the jokes
unfortunately,
right themselves,
it's
right?
one
Like,
of these situations.
it's that was fast.
Situations where DC was sitting there going, "Oh man, we've got this whole mess with Ezra, with they and whatnot, them, and they're just looking at everything, going, well, woe is us." And then it was like Marvel was just like, "Oh, hang on, just one moment." But
Hold my beer.
it is alleged. Yeah, it is alleged. And we just have to see, because apparently there is video proof and evidence that suggests that these claims are false that are being insisted by his legal representatives. So if that's true, this should rectify rather quickly. So I think we're going to be looking at a couple weeks' time versus a court case and a lot of damage control needing to be done by Disney. But regardless, there is going to be damage control that's needed to be done by Disney, because that company is not one filled with level-headed people, especially at the moment, because like they made moves, as I was alluding to last week, with their visual effects vice president or whatever. They made some moves.
That, yeah.
Like, yeah, that lady was at Marvel for as long as Kevin Feige, right? Like,
look at James Gunn, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was just like there's a little bit of a weird funk going on over there. And our friend Kathleen Kennedy is in the headlines again too for that type of speculation.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But that's
here's the thing with Iger back in charge, right? It feels like it's a family-oriented company again, right? Where they really care about what their image is. That's something that JPEG obviously didn't care about, because he took people to court and he didn't give a shit who you were.
He was there. He was signing the affidavits. Just,
yep.
Come after me.
Pretty much. Okay, so before we jump to our last little bit of what we've actually seen, Luna has Baseball All-Stars 2. That game is one of my favorite games growing up.
Oh, he's still Carl. He's still combing through the games here.
What am I gonna do? Listen to you? Like I got him.
Fair,
I'm joking.
fair.
I closed the window and it just popped up. But yeah, that's very cool. All right, so last 2 things before we call it a day. Let's talk about some of the things that we've watched. Let's start with Shrinking. It was, talking about Apple TV Plus and great content, quality content that comes out of Apple. We have Shrinking, Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, and a mutiny of awesome actors and characters. Such a good finale. Every emotion was had. It wasn't an episode of The Last of Us, but it was good. It was fun. It was happy. It was wholehearted. And then that last scene made you go, what the hell is going on?
I really, really enjoyed my time with this show. It can't be understated. I'm going to miss it. I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm hoping that they get that sucker out. I've already got an idea of where it could go, what it could be, and I'm excited for it. But that first season, it it's a show that tackles a really tough topic in grief. And it does it with a lot of humor, which you wouldn't think works, but that cast made it work. And Harrison Ford got better and better as that show went on. And I'm looking forward to many rewatches of it because, yeah, there's a lot of episodes where you're laughing you're laughing your ass off, and by the end, your eyes are a little bit moist from being, from tears that actually are not brought on by laughter. They're brought on by actual sentiment and emotion. So I really feel like they got lightning in a bottle there on a comedy front, and just a superb cast overall. Like everybody hit it out of the park on that.
Yep.
The daughter, Jason Segel, the neighbor from Drew Carey show. I forget her name all the time. You know it.
I forget it. I honestly forget it.
Okay. Fair enough. I thought that was something that you carried, like inscribed somewhere on your body. So anyhow, yeah.
My right hand.
Yeah, exactly.
As my little nephew listens.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. That's just called a honest uncle. So yeah, I thought that I had a great time watching that final, and what an ending! Like, honest to God, what an ending! What a final scene! And it's really good. Like I say, if you're dealing with grief, it gives you some nice introspection, and it really just helps you talk about it a little bit more because you realize that it's something that you should do.
Yep.
So
that's Shrinking. Highly recommend. Highly recommend Shrinking. Let's talk. Yeah. Let's talk Ted Lasso, because oh my God, that Zava character. Anyone watching who's a supporter of the Los Angeles Galaxy has lived through this in real life.
It's so funny. Zlatan, you're on TV, but it's not you. I love it. Just like Roy Kent is Roy Keane. We have now Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
There we go.
In the show, and oh my God, what season 3 gem this is going to yield. He should eat less asparagus.
But here's the thing: a lot of people are giving the show shit for not being as funny, right? But that's the whole point, right? I think that we're past that point, and now we're in 100% character growth, right? Like, look at Roy Kent this week, or on that second episode, right? Like, his character has matured so much from where he was to being in a relationship, to where he is now, to making amends with people he kind of screwed around with.
Yeah, like there's an arc going on here, and you're never going to, like, here's the thing with comedy like this. It's intelligent comedy. All right. In the first season, it's going to take, you can't always be in shock and awe that they're in England coaching a team. It has a shelf life. It's produce. It'll go rotten at a certain point. Ted opening up this season, like, spoiler, I guess, a light spoiler, but him opening up the season and questioning whether or not, like, what's he doing there still? At this point in his career, he's normally moving on.
Yep.
And what's he doing there? And they're reminding him, well, you said you were going to win it all, dude. So go out and win it all. And he said, I said that? I don't really remember saying that. Like, I'm not a winning coach. I'm a coach that makes a team better and then takes his leave type thing. And I just was doing this to run away from the turmoil in my life. And now that that's done and dusted, I kind of want to go back and start my life again, because this is getting in the way of my relationship to my son and whatnot. So the characters have to grow. And it's like, I hate to say this, but I will. It's like watching The Big Bang Theory. It had its little run where the jokes were fun. The jokes were funny because, oh, Raj can't speak to women. He needs to be drunk. oh, Sheldon's being a weird geek again this week, whatever. They do that, and eventually they just can't keep on going back to that trough. They have to go, oh, guess what? They're going to have complicated relationships. They're going to have frustrations with it. We're going to go on the journey because audiences respond well to it. And that's what they do. And Ted Lasso has always been a 3-season show, from what the sounds of Jason Sudeikis and everybody and Brett Goldstein who write it. They're saying, hey, look, it had a shelf life and we're going to do the most that we can with it. So enjoy the moments that are meant to be funny, but realize that you also should be caring about these characters because they've been gently pulling you along. Like that whole second season was all about therapy. Yet last week, Jason Sudeikis showed up at the White House to talk about the importance of mental health and therapy in the American culture. And then the great thing is that they planted Trent in the audience to ask a question. Like that was just brilliant comedy, right? I didn't watch Sudeikis on Saturday Night Live this week, but like the guy's just a comedic genius, and I can't wait to see what he does next, or what Star Wars show he shows up in a stormtrooper outfit, because he was the guy who punched Grogu in season 1.
Yep, he was. This is a perfect segue. Let's get right into it. Mandalorian, spoiler free. Before we go, this week, I do promise that we will have the Last of Us special. The schedule just became a little crazy. I had prior commitments, other shows that I had to do. But this week, we will 1,000,000% do our Last of Us wrap up. But before that, let's talk some non-spoiler first thoughts, opinions on The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4. What are we? 4, 3?
Episode 4. Yeah.
I don't even know where we are.
That would be chapter 21. So, Carl Weathers is the director for this week. Dave Filoni did the assistant, did some of the writing. I don't know if he did it all or some.
Yeah,
but
I think he did some. I know he's busy, right? So that.
I think John and him shared writing credits on this one. He's busy with Ahsoka, I'm pretty sure. So I thought it was a good episode. It wasn't what I thought. I was predicting pirates. So this one for me, it was a little bit more like the older seasons of Mandalorian. Without spoiling anything, they just buckled down on one chain of events and told the story, using the whole episode to tell that story without any jumping around, without any weird cuts, without any aggressive skipping of certain details. Like, I need a droid. Oh, you can take this R5 unit. Okay, let's go. That type of thing. It just felt a little bit more like the other episodes in previous seasons, where it had a definition, it wanted to achieve something. And I guess one of the concerns that I see coming out of the fandom, without speaking about what goes on in the show, but it's Monday at this point, and it was Wednesday it came out, so you should be all right with a little bit of banter about it. But a lot of people are starting to feel like, is this going to become the Bo-Katan show? Because we have two things that are happening right now, or one major reason why people are speculating that, just because of the amount of screen time and the conflict that Bo-Katan has about her situation in the show, and maybe playing a bigger role. But number two, Pedro Pascal's contract is up at the end of the season.
Yep.
So does The Mandalorian, does Din Djarin kind of go away, or just become a new version of Boba Fett, where he just shows up to be background character, and maybe Bo-Katan and Grogu go on a journey or something, or maybe Din gets into trouble, or we don't know right now what's going to go on. So this could get a little more spicy than we thought. I don't know.
It's called The Mandalorian.
I think that's really
it's not called Din Djarin.
Yeah, it's called The Mandalorian. It's not called Din Djarin. Exactly. So who knows? It's an interesting take, if nothing else. What do you think of that episode?
I liked it a lot. Like, I really did like that this episode was very self-contained, told a good story, got some Grogu backstory. Nice little cameo.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little cameo by Ahmed Best. That's all I'm saying. For those
Ahmed Best. Fantastic.
Right.
Like, it wasn't redemption because he didn't need redemption. I just like the fact that Star Wars had him come back and play a character that he was playing on a YouTube channel show.
Yep.
So it was just really good. And I just was very, very happy to see him get that role and kill it. Like he did. He was awesome.
Yep. Danny said he was awesome. I wholeheartedly agree. And I don't think there's anyone, I think it's very rare, Phil, very rare, where you can get the majority, I'm not going to say everyone, the majority of the fandom liking something at the same time. But Ahmed Best's cameo role in The Mandalorian this past week was one of the few things where the fandom, that is Star Wars, as fickle as they can be, we're all on the same page in happiness.
Yep. And yeah, it's really great to see. It's a lot of the people that complained about the prequels now realize that, they were necessary. It was George's vision, and you may not have loved his original character, but that has nothing to do with the actor. He nailed it. He did what he was supposed to do, and he didn't deserve some of what he got thrown, like any of what he got thrown his way. So it was nice to see him get a nice standing ovation from the fandom on this one.
But that's the thing, right? I think that was super important because I feel like we, I don't know why I say we, because I'm not like this, but a lot of the fandom forget that these people, Ahmed Best, are just playing a character that's written for them. They have little to no say about the character, especially in a series like Star Wars, right? If this was like a dramatic role, there's characters written for them, but that's not the case here in Star Wars, right? So it's good to see someone like an Ahmed Best be able to kind of prove himself that, that he wasn't the reason why Jar Jar was Jar Jar. So that was that. Very good episode overall. I can see why Emily Swallow really liked and was looking forward to last week because she was all over the episode. So that's kind of funny.
She was.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens this week. At this point, I have no idea where they're going with this story.
Yeah, neither do I, right? Like as we talked about before, we don't know what the arc is for this season, whereas it was very well communicated and laid out in the other seasons. So I just do want to say one thing before we do the outro, and that is to recognize last week that we lost Lance Reddick.
Yes.
And it was a bit of a shock with John Wick 4 coming out this week. But as well, I just know in the geeky realm, amongst his many, many roles, one of the things that I think was absolutely massive was the Destiny 2 fan base actually holding vigil over his character in the tower, or whatever they call the tower in Destiny 2 now. But actually holding vigil over his, and even with the server capacity of only 16 players being able to be in the space at once, but everybody took turns holding vigil over his character in there. So classy move by everybody. So yeah, he will be missed.
Yeah, 100%. So thanks
and
for
with
that.
We should talk about, I thought I heard music.
Oh, you know what's up.
All right. I'm going to tell you where you can find us at www.itscanonpodcast.com. You can track us down on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe basically anywhere where you find podcasts. You're going to find us, but you're also going to find us on Patreon, patreon.com/SNME radio. And please, give us a subscription there. If you're into wrestling, that's the place where you want to be. It's Sunday night's main event. And you can also find us on YouTube, where we're called the It's Canon Podcast, or It's Canon Podcast. If you like what you hear, make sure to, subscribe to the show, maybe leave a like, and, be sure to tell your friends. And thanks so much for taking your time to listen to two old dudes moan and groan.
Number one, not old myself. Number two, thank you everyone for listening to the It's Canon Podcast, the show where we chat about anything and everything, including video games, books, movies, TV shows, anything that we can think of. We'll talk about it here on the It's Canon Podcast. Remember, later on this week, you 100% will be getting The Last of Us special, and then we will be back next Monday. We'll post on all of our socials at what time we're going to be going live, but this is a thing that is happening each and every single week. We're coming at you live on the It's Canon Podcast. He's Phil. I'm Boris. Till next time, thank you for listening.